Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Everett, and I am the program manager at the Southern Documentary Fund. The Southern Documentary Fund is a nonprofit that cultivates documentary media made in and about the American South. We believe that media has the power to change lives, and we provide makers with resources to champion Southern storytelling, serving as a leading advocate, providing filmmakers and artists with professional support, filmmaking grants, and fiscal sponsorship. Today, welcome to our fiscal sponsorship info session, where we'll discuss the basics of fiscal sponsorship, the application process, and answer any questions you may have regarding our program. We will also be joined today by documentary filmmaker Emily Harold for a firsthand account on how she used fiscal sponsorship to successfully fundraise for her projects. Again, welcome everyone to our fiscal sponsorship info session. And let's start off with this. What is fiscal sponsorship? Fiscal sponsorship is pretty much, having a fiscal sponsor. I'm a documentary filmmaker as well. And when I first started doing my documentary, I had no idea what fiscal sponsorship was. And I wish I would have known, about SDF and stuff like fiscal sponsorship, because it would have helped me a lot in my whole process of doing documentary. But typically what a fiscal sponsorship is, it pretty much allows a maker to solicit funds, from government agencies, foundations, trusts, individuals, philanthropic sources as well that might require you to have some type of nonprofit status to contribute to that project. Because of with certain people, say for example, you had like someone with a lot of money and they just love your project and your idea. They say, you know what, I want to support this. Having a fiscal sponsor actually helps them out because they can, take advantage of that tax incentive, that tax write-off by donating to your project. And that's where the fiscal sponsor comes into play. So that's why it's very key to have a fiscal sponsor for your project. That way you can solicit those funds from those type of individuals. Certain grants also require you to have a fiscal sponsor as well. Some of your big grants, MacArthur and some of these bigger ones, the NEA and humanities and stuff like that might actually require you to have some type of nonprofit status. And that's where the fiscal sponsor can kind of come into play with that. But what makes our fiscal sponsorship program unique is that, we help with that, but also we also have a mentorship program also that goes along with it. And our mentorship program, when you're fiscally sponsored by us, you're able to take advantage of that. And so we usually have three documentary industry professionals that you have access to one-on-one mentoring sessions. If you need work samples or rough cuts reviewed, they can do that as well. And then they also provide mentorship roundtable discussions as well, where they'll make a presentation about a certain topic, and you as the maker and other makers within the SDF family, can ask those questions and engage with that mentor as well. So, our mentorship program is top notch. I know our recent one, we've had award-winning filmmaker Byron Hurt. He made the film Soul Food Junkies. He has a film premiering at Tribeca this year called Hazing. We also have Carla Gutierrez, her documentary that she edited, RBG, about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that was nominated for an Oscar a few years ago. We also have Alexis Galfus as well. She's a sales agent with Cinetic Media. They've been involved in projects such as Summer of Soul, which won an Oscar recently as well. So those are the caliber of makers that we have for our mentorship program to help our makers down this journey and down this road of making their films. But also, I'm also going to talk to you about submitting to us as well. And our application process is pretty simple. And I'm going to share the screen real quick to kind of show you that process. It's a very simple process. Let's see here. All right. So you go to our website, which is here, and you say, hey, I have a project that I think falls in line with Southern Documentary Fund. We're actively fundraising for this thing, where we're connected to the subject matter. We have ties to the South. It's about the American South. I want to submit. So I know one of the things in the past with Southern Documentary Fund, we used to do it like a quarterly basis where you can submit. Now it's year round, so you can submit your project year round through us. And it's also a $25 application fee as well. So, you hit apply here. Everything is done through Submittable. And this kind of goes over the layout of the whole requirements, review criteria. So pretty much if you're a project director based in the American South or telling stories about or related to the American South, so these are some of the states right here that we cover as well. And also, it's a case by case basis. And if you have questions about anything, always contact me, Chris at southerndocumentaryfund.org, and I'll put my email and other info in the chat box as well throughout today's presentation. But yeah, just definitely hit me up if you ever have any questions about eligibility and things like that. We can also, talk through those things. But also, it's not always about documentary film either. So we represent quite a few types of documentary projects. So, you might have a screening series, you might have a documentary feature, you might have a documentary short, you might have a doc web series or a doc television series, a doc photography project, multimedia, a podcast, So we fiscally sponsor all these types of documentary style of projects. So, you can be, living in your city or your town and you're like, what, I don't make documentaries, but I like to showcase them. I like to do screenings of documentaries, and I want to start a documentary screening series. And, I want to raise some funds. There are a couple of grants out here that I would love to apply to, but I need a fiscal sponsor to do it. That's when you can hit us up and say, you know what, Chris, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing a docuseries. I'm based in the South and I want to do this in my community, and we can see what we can do for you. I know we have one community organization, Doc Savannah. They have a docuseries going. It's a pretty cool series. If anyone is in Savannah, definitely check out Doc Savannah. They're doing some great things, and they're fiscally sponsored by us as well. So this is pretty much the application. It's pretty much straightforward. You got your project title. You put that there, your website, if you have it, social media links, if you have those as well, project image, so if you are selected, we want to have a good image, for your project page. And I'll show you an example of a project page that's fiscally sponsored by us as well throughout the presentation. And then you just put your, whoever is over this project, the project manager for this certain, project. Name, number, email, mailing address, the project type. Like I was saying earlier, if you're doing a docu-series, screening series, you have that, podcast, photography, a doc feature, short, whatever, you kind of select that. And also put the stage that it's in. You might be in research and development. You might be in early production. You might be in post. You might be just doing the film festival circuit and just trying to do some outreach. So we kind of, take these type of projects through these stages right here. And then you also have your log line, your synopsis, introduction and background about that certain topic, and also your story treatment, your artistic approach. How is this project going to look, visually and structurally. Also, this is a big one right here, access to the story, access to the characters. We want to make sure that, why are you best suited to tell this story? Do you have a certain connection to the story? Do you have a certain connection to the characters? Are you from this community? If you're not, are people involved on your team a part of this community? You know what I'm saying? So this right here is very, these, I would say these right here, these three are very key. The background, the story treatment, and the access to the story and characters, you know. We also want to know if you're a first-time filmmaker. We love first-time filmmakers, and we also love veterans and emerging and mid-career too. But you know, you have certain organizations that you might see that just take the big names or the more experienced documentary folks out here. You know, even though we love that too, but we also want to give first-time filmmakers a shot as well and have them grow with us. With SDF too. So if you're a first-time filmmaker, never get discouraged. Like I said, you can always reach out to me first. I've been in your shoes if you are a first-time filmmaker as well. So I know how it is. And I wish I would have had access to some of this stuff, you know, even when I started. So yeah, if you ever have any doubts or worries or questions, always hit me up first and we can schedule a call or a Zoom, you know, and talk about your project just to see if it's a best fit, or we can see how we can tailor it and make sure you're ready, you know, because some people might not be ready just yet. You know, they might just need a few more things until they're ready to apply. You got the spot where you got your director's bio, you know, your crew members, if you have any work samples or a trailer or anything, any type of footage, that's good as well. You know, you can also upload it as well if you don't have a link. Your project status and completion timeline. We want to know what's your plan, you know, to put this thing together. You know, what's your whole outline of completion? And we know things happen. You know, COVID, you know, rocked a lot of us in the documentary community. You know, a lot of us had to push our projects back. A lot of us are finally kind of starting to come out of it and starting to get back into our projects. You know, others have still been moving and shaking through the pandemic, but a lot of us haven't. And, you know, they kind of rocked a lot of our timelines with that. So things like that happen, but we still want to kind of see, you know, what's your plan and your timeline for completion. Budget, we want to see your budget. You know, budgets is something that we all struggle with, even me as an experienced documentary filmmaker. But we definitely want your budget. Don't ever be scared of your budget. You know, if you think it's outlandish, you know, try to tighten it up as best as possible. But we want to see, you know, your budget and see if you can actually obtain this to finish your project. And we also have different workshops and seminars that we'll be doing throughout the year as well about budgeting and writing budgets. So you will have access to, you know, if you're a part of our SDF supported makers, you have access to some of those mentors that are very experienced at doing budgets and can definitely guide you in that process, just in case you need to tweak some of those things, you know, along the way, because budgets change all the time. We also want to see this, a fundraising plan. You know, we definitely want to see if you're actively fundraising. You know, we just don't want you to submit to us and not do anything. You know, I think a lot of folks think that, you know, having a fiscal sponsor is that we do all the work. No, the filmmaker still has to work. You guys still have to go out there, solicit funds, do your fundraising. You know, we pretty much, you know, facilitate, you know, the funds for you, you know, and make sure you got what you need to do that, you know, but it's still up to the filmmaker to have a plan and to move those plans forward. You know, if you need any help with anything, we're here for you. But, you know, you just can't just, you know, have a fiscal sponsor and not be active with it. And if you need help with fundraising, that's what I'm here for. And that's also why we have the mentors as well. You know, so if you do get stuck and you become, you know, part of the SDF family through fiscal sponsorship, definitely set up a time to talk to a mentor and they can help you. You know, we all have different creative ways and ideas to fundraise and ways to not only just do grants, but do fundraising events, other type of fundraising initiatives, how to seek out donors as well. So definitely take advantage of the mentorship program. You know, that would help with this a lot if you ever find yourself struggling. Total funds raised on previous projects, that's also cool. Just want to see what have you done in the past, you know, have you kind of done this before and raised money? And that's also kind of shows us confidence, you know, in you as a filmmaker as well to do those things. And these are some of the other basics, the legal aspect. Do you have all your releases? Did you have to acquire any type of story rights or options? This is really for your purpose as well, because you don't want to make a film and you don't have any release photos. So those are some of the things. And we're actually thinking about doing a webinar session about the legal side of documentary making, where we can kind of talk about some of those basics that you should do even before you even film anything or make anything, just so that you have all your legalities, right and tight, what I'm saying, before you even try to get fiscal sponsorship or do anything. You want to make sure you have all those things, lined up. Also want to know if you've ever been sponsored by us before. We always, want filmmakers to come back to us and to continue to grow with us and build with us as well. Do you also have a fiscal sponsor already? Some people sometimes have a fiscal sponsor already, and sometimes they just want to have access to our mentorship program. So like I said, it's just a case-by-case basis. If you ever have any questions about that, definitely contact me and we can talk about it. And we want to hear also how did you find out about us? Was it through the internet, word of mouth, or social media, or you referred to by someone else? Let us know, who told you about us. And then we have, some optional demographic stuff as well. Go ahead and stop sharing one last thing. Let me show you an example of a sponsored project. All right. So this is my man, John, his project, The Civil Case. So when you come on board with us and you become a part of SDF and become a fiscally sponsored project, we set you up with your own page on our website. And so this is an example of a new filmmaker that's set up with us, The Civil Case. So you have your title. It'll also have other tags, so if your film's like a civil rights or social justice type of project, or history or environmental, we'll tag those. And then also you will have the spot where the image that you want to represent your project as well will be right here. And then we have a documentary. You have the description of the project. You have the director, producer, websites, if you have any, and it goes back to the application. And we pull all that from the application to put on here to build out your page. And then you have the donate button as well, where people can just go, click on here, go to your site directly and contribute to your project. And you'd be surprised, people browse our site all the time and just look for projects that are, folks that are just supportive of SDF, and they just go on here, and sometimes they just will donate to a project. But you personally can actually send people this direct link and say, hey, I'm fundraising for my project. Here's how you can contribute to it as well. And so, we can do it this way. And then also, people love to do it the old fashioned way and just send us a check. We do that. And also we do wire transfer as well. We, accept those type of funds for your project as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share. I think we have a couple of questions before we move on. Let me see here. Also, any questions that you have, put them in the Q&A as well. Let me see here. I'm about to answer this question right here. Okay. If you are the fiscal sponsor, do you get a percentage of all fundraiser in the sponsorship phase, or 100% organizations? Well, us as a fiscal sponsor, we take a modest 6%. So whatever comes through the actual page that I just showed you, we take a percentage of that and any other funds as well. So like if people are mailing you checks specifically for your project, if people are doing a wire transfer, if people are donating directly to your site, and if you're applying to grants that require a fiscal sponsor, yes, we get our 6% for that. But you also have grants out here that don't require a fiscal sponsor at all. And you really don't even have to, have us involved in that process. Because like SDF, our grants don't require fiscal sponsorship. And you have other grants out there that don't require. And by all means, apply to them. But if you get it, let us know so we can highlight you, in our wonderful email blast that Dana puts together. And because we love to support and champion our makers, whether, they get a grant that doesn't require fiscal sponsorship at all. We love to highlight that and really support, any way that we can. So cool. All right. Now we're going to go to the next part of our presentation. We're going to talk to documentary filmmaker Emily Harold. And so we're going to talk to her a little bit about her experience with Southern Documentary Fund, and just how she's been able to use and take advantage of our fiscal sponsorship program, for her projects, and also, talk about her projects a little bit and all of that stuff. So yeah, hey, what's going on, Emily?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So I guess briefly, give us a little bit about your background, and just about some of your work as well.
Sure. So I'm a documentary filmmaker originally. Sorry, there's construction. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but originally from South Carolina, a town called Orangeburg. And I moved to New York to go to film school at NYU. And basically, went into it thinking I was going to make fiction Hollywood movies, and very quickly realized that documentary was way more interesting. And so ended up basically falling in love with making documentary films, and have been working in the documentary industry, I guess, for about a decade, which makes me feel old, but, working with other filmmakers and then also making my own films. And I've just done there's just so many great stories, as we probably all know, in the South. And so many of my films have been about, South Carolina and Southern culture. And, I just really enjoy getting to take these stories that I've grown up with, that I think we as a society need to be talking about to larger audiences. And Southern Doc Fund has just been such an amazing resource and such an amazing community for me while I've been doing that.
Cool. So I guess talk about, coming on board with with one of your first projects and becoming fiscally sponsored by us. I guess talk about that whole experience.
Sure. So I had a film called While I Breathe, I Hope, which was about South Carolina politician Bakari Sellers. And very early on, actually before we even started filming, Southern Doc Fund was recommended to me from my mentor, who was a film professor I had at NYU. And he was like, you're gonna go do this movie in the South. And I was looking for crew, and I didn't really know people in South Carolina. And so I reached out to Southern Doc Fund. And at that point, you guys still had the quarterly thing. So I was like completely out of the quarterly thing. So I'm really glad you're doing it year round now. But they were really nice and took my application. And, at that point, I was pretty new to, it was my first film. I didn't super understand fundraising. I didn't super understand most any of it. And Southern Doc Fund just ended up being such an amazing resource throughout the project. Very early on, actually, somebody reached out just because they'd seen the page that you guys put up. And it turned out to be a South Carolina filmmaker who had been working in film in the 60s and 70s. And he ended up having all this old footage that I was able to use in my film. And that would only have happened because I had that page up. And then as the project progressed, Diane Robertson, who I think I saw is on here.
She's in it.
She was interim director of SDF and was just really encouraging, because I was overwhelmed. I'd just done this 6 weeks of filming. And she was really the one that was like, you need to start editing this. You need to make this film happen. And so she invited me to a convening, and I had to show a trailer. So I had to make a trailer. But that was really that was the point where we started post. And I got to introduce the project to industry people, and I got to meet a ton of Southern filmmakers, many people who ended up collaborating on that first film with me, including Diane, who came on as a producer and played a really large role in the fundraising side of making While I Breathe, I hope, possible. And so all of that was because I applied for fiscal sponsorship and for the the program that SDF does. So it was really, really invaluable.
Cool, cool. I know with the newest project that you have, tell us about that. And also, I know that's fiscally sponsored by us also. Just talk to us a little bit about that, and and what you've been kind of doing with that through SDF, also through the fiscal sponsorship program.
Sure. So I'm working on a short documentary about the Jamie Harrison 2020 Senate campaign when he was running against Lindsey Graham. And Jamie Harrison is a long, long time family friend. He actually babysat me when I was like 3, 4. So he's just been kind of a presence in my family's, well, in my life and then in my family's life. And so when Jamie started running, I was like, I have to film this because it was just, it was a very exciting campaign. And I was fundraising and trying to figure it out for a while, and basically decided that having SDF as an option for where people could go to donate would be really, really important. We decided to do a Kickstarter, and I didn't realize this at the time, but there are a number of donors that just didn't want to do Kickstarter. So they were actually like, where else can we go? And so that led to quite a bit of money through SDF, through the fiscal sponsorship option. And then also people that missed the Kickstarter. So like for a solid month, I was still sending people, I had people that were reaching out. And it's the tax incentives are really, really helpful. So, if you have relationships with people, because fundraising is just all about relationships. So if you have relationships with people and they're, they don't want to just hand you a check, being able to say, well, you'll get a tax write-off, makes it much more attractive for people. And then it also gives you credibility. And that was another big thing for this project is I was, telling people about the project and being able to say, I'm working with Southern Documentary Fund, just gives you that cachet as an independent filmmaker that is difficult to get if you're just you by yourself.
For sure. I'm gonna answer a couple of questions. I think you might can comment on some of these, Emily. Let me see here. I'm gonna answer, let me see, Catherine's question first. I know she asked about, how do we get a mentor? Catherine, if you're still on, pretty much our mentorship program, like if you get accepted as a fiscally sponsored project, you'll have access, to our mentor program. And then so we pretty much set up our mentors with a calendar, and you just go on there, select the time, the date, their availability, and then you just set it up like this. It's a very simple process, but that's kind of for our makers. So if you have a project and you come on board, you apply and we accept you for the fiscal sponsorship program, you automatically have access to our mentors. And you'll have the actual password code to get in there, get on their calendar and schedule those meetings. Also, Sheena Vaught, she had a question. I guess we both can answer this since we're both filmmakers. How can filmmakers not be intimidated by applying for grants and fundraising for their project? And I'll let you answer that first, Emily.
I guess, it's all how you approach things, I guess. I will say it is intimidating. I don't know if there's a way around that, but I think as documentary filmmakers, we're all used to having to persevere no matter what, because we believe in our stories and we believe in our films. And so I think you just have to put your best foot forward. And, we all get bazillions of rejections. Like even the most established filmmakers get bazillions of rejections. And so it stings, especially the ones you really want. But you just move on and just keep going. And I will say SDF is a community that you can go to, either meeting other filmmakers or the people that work at SDF. I'm sure Chris would happily be able to commiserate with you. And, so I think having that community is what makes this a little bit more doable. And then also another thing I'll say is like, you know, all these grant deadlines, like you can have 4 or 5 filmmakers that you're friends with and you're all working on the grants
Yeah.
together. And that makes it feel a little, I mean, I think that makes it a little less intimidating because you're doing it as a group, and you're supporting each other and cheerleading for each other.
For sure. And also, I think one thing that's helped me over the years is you just got to do it. You just can't be intimidated by it. Just have to do it. And also, I think one thing that actually helped me become a better grant writer is that I actually would participate in being a grant reader for certain, documentary grants and things like that. Because I know my mentor, I even have a mentor as well. I'm part of the Firelight Media Doc Lab. And so my mentor, she told me when I first started, working with her, is that to become a better grant writer, a lot of times you should read other grants. You know what I'm saying? You should read other folks, grant proposals and see what they're doing and see, the language they're using as well. So that's helped me a lot since, because I was the same way. I was intimidated. I never really applied to grants. I was afraid of it. I felt like they were a waste of time. But until I, got over that fear and say, you know what, let me actually, see what ITBS, if they need any help, for a grant reader or something like that. And these other fellowships and programs that are always looking for people to review these grants. They're always looking, plus they'll pay you as well. So you're getting paid. Plus, you can kind of look at these grants and proposals and really see what's working, what's not working. And that's, to me, that's helped me over the years to not be intimidated by grants. And fundraising, I love crowdfunding. And I know you talked about that before, Emily. I love it because not only good to raise funds, but also it builds community and audience as well. And so like anytime, any filmmaker out there, even if you don't even want to apply to the fiscal sponsorship program, hit me up. I'm always willing to talk to filmmakers about these type of things. And, I can do what I can do to help and lead you down that direct path as well. Let's see, we got another question. Catherine, okay. Is the only way to access the mentors by being accepted in the program? Not necessarily. Usually what we'll do is at first, first and foremost, this program is for, sponsored makers. So if you got a grant through us or you're fiscally sponsored by us, but there are times where we'll open it up to the general public, for other filmmakers who might not be a part of the fiscal sponsorship program. So we usually will do that sometimes if we need to, like if a lot of our makers aren't taking advantage of certain mentorship. So a lot of times we do open it up. But definitely stay on the lookout. And I know you also, Catherine, so once we open it up, and if you want to, sign up for our mentorship, I'll definitely let you know. So, all right, let me see. Can you be represented by 2 fiscal sponsors at the same time? You can, but it's a case-by-case basis. And so, that can get tricky sometimes. But that's why with those type of things, I would have to know a little bit more about that type of project. Sometimes you just can't just answer these, on a session. So I'll have to talk to you about that and get a little bit more information, but it depends. It depends. It really depends. So if you have a specific, ask, definitely email me and we can talk about that. Let me see here. Are there any implications if a brand is involved in sponsoring the film? Not necessarily. It depends. If is the brand, can you be more specific with your question? I'm not really understanding that. I think it's an anonymous attendee. And if you want to go more in depth, you can just email me.
Probably like if Nike was helping to fund it or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, Nike would just submit the funds to us, and if they want to get the write-off, they can do that. So if you have like or corporation, because even with one of my films, I've actually had a tech company, give to my project, but I didn't have a fiscal sponsor at the time, but they just kind of did it out the kindness of their heart. But I wish I would have had a fiscal sponsor at the time. I could have, they could have taken advantage of, that tax incentive. So if you have a brand, that wants to get involved with your project and they want to contribute funds, yes, they can just send those funds through us, and so they can get those incentives for that. Sheena, she had a question for you, Emily. For Emily, let me see here. What were other ways you funded your films?
I feel like this is not going to be all that exciting for people, but as an independent filmmaker, I feel like I still rely a lot on self-funding. So, I am lucky to be working as a documentary producer, so that helps pay my rent and living expenses. So that's not something I have to fundraise for. And then I do take side work. And so a lot of that I will funnel directly to my projects. I'm also, it's always great to try and have somebody come on and they may provide some extra money to you in advance of the film being done. On the last film I did, I was able to do that. So, getting the licensing fees, I guess it's called pre-sales, but getting a little bit of that during production is helpful. And then, having executive producers come on, that's been really helpful. But it's kind of all in the same space of, it's all relationships. And again, I know you're probably coming here because you need help with fundraising, but I will say SDF, one of the main values is just the community of people, and being able to hear how other filmmakers do it too. Like you're asking me now, I was able to ask other filmmakers that I was meeting through SDF to get insight. But I think we're all, again, I think every filmmaker is always trying to figure out the fundraising question. And so be creative. Like, I think some of the most exciting ways that people are able to find money is when they look outside the box. Chris is actually really great at that. He's I'm always impressed with what he's doing. So again, you would get to know Chris more and hear some of his advice. So hopefully that somewhat answers your question and I wasn't too rambly.
Oh no, that was great. That was great. Yeah, and then also, and to go back what you just said, Emily, just the community of SDF and meeting the other filmmakers as well, especially during the mentor roundtable sessions where you have all these filmmakers coming together. You can bounce ideas off of each other, ask questions to the mentor as well, and you'll meet other makers. And like you said, we're all trying to find ways to fund our projects. It's not really a one way, one way to do it. Everyone has a certain way. It's not always about grants. So they're a part of it, but it's you just have to do what you have to do and find what works and what doesn't work. But again, I'm here to help, as much as I can, and also our mentors as well. And they have, way more experience than probably me, Emily and I. So, they have other ways that they've done it as well. So, SDF is just a big family and just a big family of resources and connections as well. You see here, we got Ben. Is there a fiscal sponsorship deadline coming up? And once accepted, how long does it take? How long does the sponsorship last? Well, we don't have a deadline for fiscal sponsorship. So it's year round. And I'll get Dana to put that link in the chat box as well for our fiscal sponsorship program page. So you can check that out and browse around. But yeah, there's no deadline. Now, we used to back in the day where it's like a, once a quarter type thing, but we're year round now. So there's no deadline to apply for fiscal sponsorship. And also, once you're accepted, as long as you're filming and as long as you're making your project, so pretty much your sponsorship can last as long as you're still moving with the project. As long as you're still actively fundraising, as long as you're, still moving forward with it. As long as you're doing your yearly progress reports and things like that, you know, that's because sometimes a project can take 5 or 10 years, you know, you never know. So yeah, so as long as you're doing those type of things, you know, your fiscal sponsorship will still go, you know, and you have your yearly fees that you have to pay, you know, the progress report that you have to do each year. You know, so as long as you're doing those things and as long as you're still making your project, yeah, you, as long as you need, you know, we want to see you finish your film. And like I said, it's not only film as well. You know, if you have a documentary screening series, you know, and if you want to do that for the next 10 years, and as long as you're doing your, you know, your yearly reports, your fundraising, and you're staying active with it, hey, you'll be on board with us. You know, we've had certain initiatives like that have been with us for years. So yeah, so as long as you're doing those things, you know, you're good to go. Next question, let me see. Do filmmakers need a big social media following to attract funding for their project? I would say yes and no. You don't really need a big social media following like that. It helps, you know, but no, that's not really a requirement. So yeah, so as long as it's really about relationships. Like I said, even with some of my past projects, you know, with a few tech companies, they actually invested in my project, not because of social media, because they actually came to one of my screenings. And, you know, they were really inspired by the film and they knew I was doing a part 2 for this. And they said, hey, I like what you're doing. Your film really inspired me. I want to write you a check for $25,000 so you can get the next one going. And, you know, they actually came to my screening. And I've had several people that have contributed to my future projects based off of just my previous screenings. Because you never know who's coming to these events. You know, people with money don't walk around with a sign on, you know, saying they got money. So you never know who you're going to meet at your own film screenings. And also, you know, when you're doing these Q&As, it's also good to, you know, tell people what you're doing, what you got coming up. Because people really are investing in you. You know, they want to hear your story. And he was inspired. He was inspired by my story. He was inspired by my film. And he heard me talk about wanting to do a follow-up project about the same topic, and he got behind it. So yeah, so if you have a big social media following, that definitely helps too. But you know, you always want to continue to grow that. But you know, you can't really rely on that solely. You know, so go ahead.
And I want to add, you know, when I first started making my own films, I think I was always a little embarrassed that I needed money to do it. And, you know, it's awkward to ask people for money. But I realized that a lot of people don't actually know how expensive filmmaking is. And so I think to some extent, you need to make sure that you're letting people know that you don't have your project fully funded. And I will say, especially with my last film that I'm working on currently, I've been much more upfront about that. And, you know, I'm finding that there's so many more people that are like, you know, they'll mail me a check and it might only be $25, but I don't think people really understood that I was like piecemealing my funding together. So I think kind of like what Chris said, like when you're at these screenings, like don't be afraid to say, you know, I'm an independent filmmaker and I'm piecing the budget together, because I think that, you know, just assuming people are going to put together that you need money for your next project, I don't think people assume that. So, yeah.
Right, for sure. And even if, say, if you don't have a completed project already, I know with my first film, Wilmington on Fire, I think I had like a work in progress sample I was using, and it actually helped draw the attention of some funders. The NBA player actually gave me the finishing funds to complete it because he heard about, you know, he saw my work in progress. I don't know how. And then also he saw me do an interview. And so he was following the project, and he reached out to one of the media outlets I did an interview for, and they just connected us. And I said, hey, you know, I need this amount to finish post. I was honest, straight up. And he said, well, I want to see this film made and I want a DVD of it. And so I'm gonna give you the money. And so that's how it happened. So you never know who's watching, you know, while you're out here. And, you know, any type of engagement that you create, whether it's through the work in progress stage or whatever, it's only going to help you, because you never know who's watching, especially now during the social media age and the digital age, that information goes out quick, and you never know who knows who and who's sharing what with who. And I know a lot of my funding and support has came from those type of things. Let me see here. Can you qualify for fiscal sponsorship if you're a doc filmmaker based in the Southeast, but the theme of your doc is concerning communities abroad? Yes, you can definitely, because with fiscal sponsorship, we support makers that are in the South. So if you're in one of those 12 Southern states, definitely hit us up, hit me up, and I would love to talk to you about the project. It sounds pretty cool. So definitely send me an email and we can see if we can get you involved with our program. Let me see here. Do you need an LLC to receive funding? You don't, but it's best to have it, really just for tax purposes. Now, I can't sit up here and give you tax advice, but it's just best to do that, just to kind of keep your finances separate. But if you're doing any type of film project, you definitely want to talk with a tax person about that, about setting up an LLC and what's the best way to do that. So yeah, I would definitely talk to a tax person that deals with entertainment tax, stuff, to talk about that first. So, all right, next question. Yeah, we got a few more. We got time for a couple more questions, so definitely put them in the Q&A section before we close out. Let me see. With SDF sponsorship, is it best to send a letter of inquiry to potential funders and include the Southern Documentary Fund's mission statement? Yeah, you can really, it's really up to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's different ways. If you have potential people that you want to target to potentially, donate and contribute to your project, yeah, you can definitely do a letter. You can say, hey, we're fiscally sponsored by the Southern Documentary Fund. If you want to put our statement, our mission statement, so they can see what we're about, definitely do that. And you can also put the link to where your project page is on our website as well. So yeah, definitely when you're seeking out those potential funders, and if you're a part of our fiscal sponsorship program, definitely let them know that you are fiscally sponsored by us. Because if they are looking to receive those tax incentives, they want to know that you do have some type of fiscal sponsorship. So definitely let them know and include Southern Documentary Fund in that letter. Let me see here. Okay, Orby, what if you are currently living in the North, but your documentaries of family are in the South? Will I still qualify? Yeah, you can qualify because you have ties. I know, Orby, you've been in Fayetteville and you're from the South. So yeah, so you have people all around. Because I know, Emily, you're like in New York as well.
I'm in
right?
New York, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, folks, a lot of people have ties to the South. So Orby, you would be cool, man. Because I know you have ties to the South. I know you kind of recently moved to the North. So like I said, it's a case-by-case basis, based on a lot of this stuff. So that's why I tell people to email me, let me know your situation. A lot of times people don't put that in their application. They just put that, hey, I'm in New York or I'm in LA, and they don't tell us about, they're connected to the South. Like, I was living in the South all my life, and I'm connected to the story, but I currently live in LA. That's okay. Well, we can get you in. So that's why it's always best, if you have those type of questions or concerns, to email me first, and we can talk about it, and we can see what we can do for you. Let me see here. Okay, Jeff. See here. Is it discouraging to submit 2 projects to SDF if one is in post and the second project is being prepared? No. Actually, we have a couple of filmmakers who have 2 projects with us. So if both projects, qualify, if they're thorough, Yeah, if you have one in post and you have another one that's, in development or in production, by all means submit, but definitely hit me up first, because I don't, so I would love to talk to you about that, if you have something like that going on, because I know we have a couple of filmmakers. They have one project that they have fiscally sponsored by us in post-production, and they have another one in production. And they're both sponsored by us. And, but, they fit all the criteria, and they actively fundraise for both projects, and they do both projects, thoroughly. And so as long as you're doing that, you're fine. But if you actually have that going on, definitely email me. I would love to hear about both projects and see how we can get involved. Cool. All right. So last call for questions. Let me see here. And like I said, if you have more in-depth questions or just about anything, definitely hit me up email wise. See the cons to fiscal sponsorship. I don't know. I think fiscal sponsorship really is a plus. I think how we do it, because I think what really makes us unique is that whole mentorship aspect. A lot of places that offer fiscal sponsorship, they don't have that. They don't have a mentorship program where you as a maker, because you're fiscally sponsored by us, have access to these award-winning, Oscar-nominated, people that you can just tap into and do a one-on-one session like that for free, pretty much. Most fiscal sponsors, they just offer the fiscal sponsorship and that's it. We kind of take it a step above that. We try to connect folks. Sometimes people are looking for crew, for example. I had a filmmaker hit me up the other day, say, hey, Chris, I know you've done a lot of work in Wilmington. Can you connect me with a DP? I send them a list. Also had a couple other filmmakers that needed some help as well about some crew and film people in Georgia. And so I went through my contacts and some makers that we fiscally sponsor, and they connected those folks with that. And so we do much more than just be your fiscal sponsor. We try to build community with you as well and just have you a part of this whole SDF family. And, that's what we're about, really supporting documentary makers and creators in the South. So, yeah.
I'll just add to that really quick. One thing that you do have to do when you are getting your money dispersed is you do have to do some reporting.
Right.
And so you could argue that's a little bit of a pain, but I would say that it's forcing you to be responsible with how you're spending your money. Right. So it's like in my argument, it's a plus also, but I mean, you do have to do that reporting.
Right. Right. So. It is a pain, but it does. And the thing is, when you look at it, these are things you should do anyway as a filmmaker, because you want to make sure that your records are straight. Because Uncle Sam, he don't care if you're frustrated or not. He want to know, at the tax season, how the stuff is broken down. And so it just kind of gives you a good way of keeping track of everything and staying on task of the goal at hand. And we know things happen, because like I said, the pandemic, rocked a lot of us. And, a lot of us are finally coming out of that and starting to get back with our projects. But I know that was crazy. And, we tried to support our makers the best way. And we had to do what we had to do to go through that. And so, things happen, but you got to do it. It's good, for you just as a maker to do it in the long run. But I know it's a pain. Daniel, do you have data on number of Latinx filmmakers that still supported? I don't have that information off gate, but I can get that for you. Send me an email. Cool. All right. Well, I enjoyed it, Emily.
Yeah.
This was awesome. Great. Great talking to you. I'm looking forward to your new project. And, I know we've talked about trying to do fresh doc screening in the near future. We definitely will keep people, excited about that and let people know once we, lock in something for that. So hopefully folks that are on the call today, can come through for that as well, for sure. But yeah, I just want to let everybody know, I just want to thank everyone for attending our info session today about fiscal sponsorship. Also, if you are in the Durham area, the triangle, whether it's Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Cary, Pittsburgh, we have a great screening coming up May 7th. One of our sponsored projects, Stay Prayed Up. It's going to be a great event, May 7th at the Carolina Theater. Tickets are on sale now. Come through. If you're into gospel, you definitely don't want to miss this. So they're going to be showing the documentary about this gospel group here in North Carolina. And they're also going to have a special gospel performance after the Q&A of the documentary. So you got to come check that out. May 7th at the Carolina Theater. Also, for folks here today, you have access to one of our mentors tomorrow. We actually have a mentorship roundtable tomorrow with Carla Gutierrez, the mentor I was telling you about earlier during the presentation. She edited the documentary RBG, and she's done a whole bunch of other documentaries as well. She's doing a mentorship roundtable discussion tomorrow, and we have that opened up to the public. So I'll get Dana to send that, put that link in the chat box as well. Sign up for that. That's going to be 12 to 1 tomorrow, and she's going to talk about the director-editor relationship when it comes to documentaries. So yeah, definitely take advantage. She'll be there doing her presentation and also answering your questions as well about editing, the editing process, the whole relationship between the director and the editor, and any other questions that you might have about editing and documentary. She'll be there. So this is one of those things I was telling you about that you can kind of take advantage of. So definitely, if you like what we're doing, definitely check that out tomorrow, and you can sign that up. Hold on one second. Dana, they said the link didn't work. Let me check it out real quick. Now, it should work. I just clicked on it. Okay. Well, okay. Well, it should work. Try to re-click on that. But again, I want to thank everyone for attending our info session today about fiscal sponsorship with Southern Documentary Fund. You guys have a great day. Talk to you later.